Hello, my visual communication friends. I'm Mr. Yang. I feel very fortunate to be able to talk about visual communications with you today. I'm sure all of you will be interested in today's topic because it is tightly related to our everyday lives. Today's topic is going to be about design elements and visuals. When we talk about design elements and visuals, one thing immediately comes to my mind is the rhetorical theory. The theory is basically talking about the rhetoric. So what is the difference between rhetoric and design? Rhetoric means imperfection can be modified to perfection, and design means changing current situation into another one, preferably a perfect one. In terms of rhetoric, things can be categorized into two concepts, which are energia and eudaimonia. Energia is talking about vividness and eudaimonia is talking about the visual well-being. Okay, since we all live in a world with all types of beauties and designs, we have to realize that it is a trend for designers to design things that are beautiful. In other words, fits the two concepts. Here are some examples of beautifully designed artifacts and everyday things. Here is an iPhone. I'm sure everybody knows it by its design both in terms of its appearance and in terms of its functionality. The iOS system is one of the most successfully designed systems compared to others. The MacBook Pro is another masterpiece that has a great design and great functionality. And finally, the picture shows the glass elevator inside the Apple Store in Manhattan. This is an elevator not only gets people up and down stairs, but also looks great. Okay, when things are designed beautifully, their usefulness is not always guaranteed. In the book by Donald Norman, there are tons of bad design examples. Basically, according to his book, there are 5 most important elements when it comes to design. Those elements are affordance, signifiers, feedback, mapping, and constraints. When we talk about affordance, we're talking about an object that can be manipulated in some ways, such as a button affords pressing and a door handle affords pushing. In many design cases, those affordances are not easily to be discovered, so we don't call these good designs, because they don't have a good visibility of affordance, such as this shower faucet. I'm sure you won't discover the secret of pulling it out to turn the water on the first time you see it. The second element we're talking about today is signifier. A signifier means something that works as a guidance. If a piece of design does not have a good visibility of affordance, but it has a good signifier, then it's okay as long as people know how to use the design object. The picture on the left-hand side would be a little bit confusing and dangerous if you accidentally turn on the wrong stove, but it would be much better to have some type of guidance as a signifier, such as showing the picture on the right-hand side. At least you know which knob to turn to light up the stove you want to. The third element we're talking about today is feedback. Feedback is something like a signal that tells us something has been done. Let's say if a piece of design does not have a good visibility of affordance or signifier, but it has a good visibility of feedback, then it's alright at this point. At least one would know he or she did something already. If there's no visibility of feedback at all, then it is definitely not a piece of good design. Here is an example of a piece of design with good feedback. In this picture, almost every single button or lever has a good feedback. You can feel that you are pressing a certain button or adjusting a certain lever, such as a thrust lever. You can actually feel the different thrust settings by hand and by your eyes. The fourth element should be mapping. Mapping means the relationship between control and functions. The way you interpret the control of the object should match the actual function that control can actually achieve. This first picture shows an overhead panel of a Boeing 747-100 series aircraft. Look at all these buttons. I'm sure it would take a long time for the pilot to actually know functions of all these buttons. Now take a look at this much modern overhead panel of Boeing 777 aircraft. Less buttons compared to the previous one, plus most of the buttons have words on them. What a piece of design with good mappings. And finally, here comes the last design element, constraint. Constraint works as a limit that helps us to understand how to use things. A perfect example for this category would be a pair of scissors. The first picture shows a good example. This is a graph of RAM memory cards for computers. The constraints are those notches in the middle of the metal connectors. With those notches, you don't need to worry about the possibility of installing the card reversely. On the other hand, here is a bad example. These are pictures of old school game console. It has a yellow cassette with a piece of chip inside. That chip does not come with any notches. So if you suddenly break your cassette case and want to use the chip again, you will find it hard to identify which side is front and which side is back. Okay, so much for design element and design-related visual problems. Hope you will be able to determine if a piece of design is good or bad. I'm sure this information helps you on your way of designing your things too.